Alright guys, there's no slowing down in the Championship right now. We've got a full fixture list coming up in midweek and all of those matches will be previewed in today's video. Obviously, coming off the back of another jam-packed weekend in the Championship, we'll also be discussing all of this weekend's action throughout this video. But of course, the main focus will be on these upcoming matches. And I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Drop your score predictions down there. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out at Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Coventry. Blackburn are looking to bounce back from that loss over the weekend against Oxford, and they have found themselves in a little bit of a rut recently. Obviously, they're not long off coming off the back of quite a tough fixture run, but zooming out a little bit, it's only 1 win in 7 for Blackburn now, and going up against the Coventry side, who have rediscovered maybe a bit of their mojo recently. Under Frank Lampard so far, they've been averaging 1.5 points per game in the Championship, which isn't too shabby. It's certainly an improvement on what they were doing at the start of the season under Mark Robins. The biggest thing for Coventry this season has really been about consistency. Under Frank Lampard so far, they're yet to win back-to-back matches in the Championship. They've got the opportunity to do that in midweek if they can follow up that win over Bristol City with another 3 points against Blackburn. While Blackburn aren't in the best of moments right now, they tend to be quite tough to beat at home. Score prediction in that one, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw to kick off this midweek fixture list. Next up, we go to Derby up against Sunderland. I'm sure that Wilson Isidore will have had a few sleepless nights on the back of squandering 2 late penalties in that game against Burnley, but zooming out for Sunderland a little bit, it feels like this is a good opportunity for them to get back to winning ways. And even looking at their overall form of late, they've only lost 2 of their last 20 matches, and they're going up against a Derby side who really don't find themselves in a good moment right now. Coming off the back of 4 consecutive losses, it was another defeat for them over the weekend against Watford. Now means they failed to score in 3 of their last 4 games, and that lack of firepower is becoming a real issue for Paul Warne's side. It's usually been their sort of home form that they've been able to sort of fall back on this season to keep their head above water and out of this relegation scrap, but even that has started to desert them of late. You know, they've now lost 4 of their last 6 home matches, and with Sunderland in town on Tuesday night, I'm struggling to look past the Sunderland win for this one. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-0 Sunderland and back them to get back to winning ways after that goalless draw against Burnley. After that, we go to Hull up against QPR. 2 sides coming off the back of good results over the weekend. Hull went away at Millwall, walked away with a 1-0 victory. QPR went away to Plymouth and also walked away with a 1-0 victory. Really have to tip my hat to QPR and how efficient they've been of late. Since they beat Cardiff on the 27th of November, no Championship side has picked up more points than QPR have in that time frame. Over the last 11 Championship matches, they've picked up 24 points, which is promotion form. But Hull aren't to be taken lightly right now. They've only lost 2 of their last 6 matches. I keep backing against them in these prediction videos. I had Millwall to beat them last time out. Hull proved me wrong. Before that, I had Leeds to beat them. They proved me wrong in that game as well. So I really don't want to back against Hull here, but QPR have been in such excellent form recently that I think I'm talking to myself into a draw here. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1. 2 sides that I have quite liked the look of recently. Next up, we go to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against West Brom. Another fairly tight looking encounter to me. Neither side has quite been firing on all cylinders in recent weeks. Neither team losing that many matches at the moment. I know that Borough lost over the weekend against Portsmouth, but generally speaking, they've each been quite draw heavy of late. Obviously, Middlesbrough looking to bounce back from that 2-1 loss away at Pompey last time. Emmanuel Latte-Lath giving them the lead, but Matt Ritchie flipping that game on its head with a second half brace. Will be really good to see Tony Mowbray obviously back in the dugout here, going to one of his former stomping grounds at Middlesbrough as well. West Brom coming off the back of a 1-1 draw with Stoke. Honestly, I'm finding it tough to separate these two as well. I know we've had a lot of draws to kick off this video, but I'm fancying another one here. Score prediction, 1-1 between those two. After that, we go to Oxford up against Luton Town, and Gary Rowett is working absolute miracles with Oxford right now. To be honest, I think we all knew there was a talented bunch of players that he was sort of coming in to work with, but let's not forget, when Rowett inherited this Oxford side, it was a team who had won just one of their last 16 matches, and since being appointed, they've gone unbeaten in their last 6 matches with 4 wins in that time. Another win for Oxford over the weekend against Blackburn, a clean sheet in the process as well. And honestly, with Oxford being the home side here, I could see them doing some damage on Luton. It was Matt Bloomfield's first game in charge over the weekend against Preston North End. Luton didn't quite get the new manager bounce they were probably after. It was a point, but a very scrappy game of football against Preston, which lacked any real quality at either end of the pitch, if we're being honest. One thing that has to be ringing alarm bells with Luton right now was, I was looking into the underlying stats of every Championship club so far this season, and Luton have now scored the fewest amount of goals from open play, which, yeah, has to be sending off massive alarm bells for the club. With the way Oxford have been going about their business of late, they seem to be really settled under Gary Rowett. Score prediction for that game, I'm going to go 2-1 Oxford. I fancy them for another 3 points at home there. After that, we go to Swansea up against Sheffield United, and Swansea will just want to put this weekend behind them as quickly as possible. They absolutely fell apart against Cardiff, and I was backing Swansea for a result in that game as well. It does have to be said, away from home, they have dropped a few clanging performances recently. At home, they've tended to be a little bit more competitive. Swansea are unbeaten in their last 3 home matches, but coming off the back of a game like that will really sting the fan base, I'm not sure how they react in what looked to be a really tough game against a Sheffield United side who are obviously going quite well at the moment. It was a good win for the Blades over the weekend, a professional performance, 2-0 at home against Norwich. Harrison Burrows with a brace in that game, which was the difference between the two sides. I think Swansea have to be better than they were over the weekend against Cardiff, but I can see them coming unstuck in this game here. Score prediction, I'm going to go 1-0 Sheff United on the road. Next then to Vicarage Road for Watford up against Preston North End. A much needed win for Watford over the weekend, going away to Derby and walking away with all 3 points. Now back at home against Preston, Watford probably will fancy their chances for a result in this game. For North End, it was a goalless draw against Luton over the weekend. We're still not quite striking the right balance in these away performances. Don't get me wrong, a point away from home isn't to be sniffed at, but there really wasn't a lot of goal-mouth action to shout about in that game, especially from a Preston North End perspective. You know, we made ourselves big, tough to break down and things like that, but a very scrappy game with not a lot of quality going forward. Watford have obviously tended to be quite good at Vicarage Road this season. If some of their creative players turn up for this game, I think North End could find it difficult, especially if Watford do score first. Now, thinking back to the reverse fixture between us two earlier in the season at Deepdale, Preston absolutely wiped the floor with Watford. We beat them 3-0, but it's a different dynamic at Vicarage Road. Preston still haven't cracked the formula away from home. Reluctantly, I think Watford could just shade this one 1-0, I'm saying. And after that, we're off to the Den for Millwall up against Cardiff, and Millwall really find themselves in a bit of a predicament right now. There's been no sort of new manager bounce under Alex Neil. It was a loss for them over the weekend at home against Hull. It now means the overall form book for Millwall really is looking quite grim. It's just 1 win from their last 12 league matches, and if they lose this one, Cardiff will go level on points with them in the table, and they'll be seriously dragged back into this relegation scrap. Now, for Cardiff, I owe them an apology. I was backing Swansea in that South Wales derby over the weekend, but Cardiff absolutely proving me wrong. Callum Robinson really turning up for that one. He loves a goal on Derby Day, speaking as a Preston fan, but what a way to dismantle Swansea it was from Cardiff in that game, and a result like that can just breed so much confidence. I don't want to get carried away with Cardiff right now, but they've been on a good solid unbeaten run of late, quite a few draws in there. Going away to a side like Millwall now, who seem to be quite down and low on confidence, and I actually think it suits Cardiff in those sorts of away matches like this, where they can look to counter and play on the vulnerabilities that Millwall clearly have at the moment. Score prediction in that one, I'm going to go 2-0 Cardiff. Been a while since I backed them for a win, I think, so why not? After that, to Ellen Road for Leeds United up against Norwich. It was a good win for Leeds over the weekend, 3-0 against Sheffield Wednesday. Solomon scoring early on to sort of set the tempo for that game. Thought Wednesday made a game of it, but Leeds scoring 2 late goals obviously made the scoreline look quite comfortable in the end. You'd have to back them as the favourites for this one as well. Norwich, I think, just might have to chalk this week down as maybe a bit of a lost cause. Obviously, they've just gone away to Bramall Lane, lost 2-0. They're now going away to Ellen Road in midweek. It doesn't get much tougher than that. Going away to Sheffield United, then immediately away to Leeds United. Norwich, to be fair, have been on a decent run of form prior to that Sheff United game, but this one in midweek, I think it's tough to see past a Leeds United victory. Daniel Farke up against his former employers. I'm going to go 2-0 Leeds in that game. Next up we go to Portsmouth up against Stoke City. Brilliant result for Portsmouth last time out, turning that game on its head thanks to a Matt Ritchie brace, and it really will be their home form this season that's going to keep their head above water if they are to survive. They're unbeaten now in their last 6 home matches. They still tend to drop the ball every now and again on the road, but at home especially, they've made Fratton Park into a bit of a fortress of late, and they'll probably fancy their chances in this one against Stoke. If Portsmouth win this game, they'll climb out of the bottom 3 and they'll leapfrog Stoke in the process. So that's the motivation going into this one. From a Stoke perspective, obviously they have been weakened recently by Tom Cannon being recalled, but brilliant moment for Nathan Lowe, who's obviously been on fire for Walsall out on loan in the first half of the season. He's been recalled and he was on the score sheet over the weekend against West Brom, and I don't think a point away at the Hawthorns is to be sniffed at. But with Stoke still figuring things out under Mark Robins and Pompey, a bit of a formidable force at home at the moment. Score prediction there, I'm just edging it to Portsmouth with a 2-1 home victory. After that we go to Hillsborough for Sheffield Wednesday up against Bristol City. Both sides looking to bounce back from a loss over the weekend. Sheffield Wednesday obviously headed to Leeds and lost 3-0. Bristol City lost a tight encounter away at Coventry. For Bristol City, that is now 6 games on the road without a win, but there's really not been a lot to separate these two sides so far this season. They're on the exact same amount of points right now, and it does have the feeling of quite a tight game. A draw or 1 goal either way is the sort of vibe I'm getting from this one. Now, in fairness to Sheffield Wednesday, we've said it a few times on the channel this season, they do tend to be quite good at bouncing back on the back of a defeat. The last time they lost back-to-back matches in the Championship, you're going all the way back to August. So they don't tend to be kept down for that long. I know there's still a bit of drama going on behind the scenes there with the chairman and manager, but I reckon Wednesday could just nick that one. It'll obviously be Shea Charles's last game for the club as well before he's recalled. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 1-0 Wednesday, but a draw wouldn't surprise me either. And then to round off the midweek batch of games with Plymouth up against Burnley. With Plymouth in the form they're in right now, this isn't the sort of fixture you want to be going into, obviously. Coming off the back of another loss over the weekend, a 1-0 defeat to QPR. Burnley looking to get back to winning ways following that goalless draw against Sunderland. They've got James Trafford to thank for that point in the end, saving 2 penalties late on in such dramatic circumstances. But the positives for Burnley out of that game, it's yet another clean sheet, another game with no goals conceded, and the way they've tended to perform, especially in away matches, I just fancy this to be another professional performance from them. Plymouth may throw a bit at them. They tend to be good for a goal at home park, but Burnley have just been so watertight at the back this season that I'm going to back them for a 2-0 away victory in that game. But there you guys have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Make sure to drop your score predictions in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.